Hi there. Of course, it's another beautiful Tuesday morning here in the city of Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. And of course, it is still today in the news here on Vanguard Live. Well, of course, today is not going to be different as we are going to be reviewing some of the major dailies across the country this morning. Of course, we'll be starting off with Vanguard. Let's see what Vanguard has as its top story this morning. Okay, well, of course, Vanguard is still dwelling on the ministerial oath taken yesterday, and of course, it's saying that Tinubu to ministers serve Nigeria, not regions or states. Well, that story is on page 5 of the Vanguard this morning. Well, if you look at that story, there are a couple of writers to it, and I'm sure you would, of course, find one of them very interesting. So you pick up a copy of the Vanguard, and of course, you would see it. Okay, let's quickly move on to other stories that are making headlines on the Vanguard this morning. Okay, above the nameplate of the Vanguard, there is a very interesting business story there. 77 trillion debts may stall Tinubu's economic plan. That's coming from Manufacturer Association of Nigeria. Well, yesterday the president charged the ministers that they should deliver on his hope agenda. But of course, the Manufacturer Association of Nigeria is saying that, well, that may not happen if we do not sort out some of the domestic and foreign debt that we are currently facing in Nigeria. Okay, let's quickly look at other story. Well, let's move on to Niger. There is an update in Niger. We are more likely to use force. That is coming from ECOWAS. Well, you recall that a delegate that was sent to Niger actually met with the hosted president Bazoum, but then the junta saying that they need 3 years, to plan the transition to civil rule, but that does not seem to all go well with ECOWAS, and they are saying that maybe force would be the next thing. Okay, well, you can pick up a copy of the Vanguard and see more on that story. Okay, let's quickly move on to the Punch this morning and see what the Punch has. Punch is leading with a very interesting story, if you like. Of course, this trended yesterday, shortly after the Minister of FCT, Tinubu Wike, addressed the press conference. He said that a lot of buildings are going down. Okay, so let's see what Punch is making of that. FG may revoke land allocations, demolish 6,000 buildings, slums. Well, Wike is telling some ministers that if you have built your house, illegally in Abuja, expect it to go down. Okay, so just pick up a copy of the Punch and see more of that story. Let's quickly move on to the Guardian, and let's see what the Guardian is saying. Okay, Guardian is actually going with business this morning. Operators unsettled over Tinubu's hold on petroleum ministry. Operators unsettled over Tinubu's hold on petroleum ministry. That story is on the page 6 of the Guardian this morning. Okay, there is an infograph of crude oil exports in the year 2022 on the front page of the Guardian. I hope that of course we make interesting reading for you if you pick up that paper. Okay, let's quickly move on to the Nation and let's see what the Nation has this morning. How we will implement Tinubu's agenda by ministers. How we will implement Tinubu's agenda by ministers. Of course, Nigerians cannot wait to see what the ministers have in stock for them, and of course, how they hope to alleviate some of the challenges that are facing the country at the moment. Okay, I'm afraid that's all we have for you on the front page of the dailies, and we'll be back with a very interesting guest who is going to be giving us some of this, very insightful analysis on some of the stories that have made the headlines in the dailies this morning. Do not go away. We'll be back shortly. Right, welcome back. And of course, it's still today in the news here on Vanguard, live broadcasting to you from the beautiful city of Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. We have a very, very interesting guest joining us via Zoom all the way from London. Mr. Dayo Akintobi, who is the publisher of Ilupeju Today. Mr. Dayo, welcome to the show once again. Right. I'm sure you followed with keen interest, the oath taking yesterday. I'm sure you must have had one or two things you would like to share with Nigerians. But before I go into the question proper, just tell us, from what you observed yesterday, is there hope for Nigerians, with some of the press statements and press conference held by, the ministers yesterday?
Well, there's always hope, and we must always continue to keep hope. And this is a new beginning, so we must have faith that those who have been charged with administering our affairs will do a good job on our behalf. You look at the menu of ministers, and you see competence, you see experience. Some of it you see political paper and patronage. It's a mixed bag, really. But at the end of the day, all we can do is hope. And our role as citizens is always put the people first, to be selfless in their service, to be there to serve the people and not to serve themselves. And the way to do that is to continue to be politically engaged. We need to hold government accountable. Even the best governments that come into office with the best intentions, they have a tendency to go astray or to become complacent if they're not held accountable. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it's one thing to have the intentions when you're coming into power, but the next thing is to be able to follow through on it. And I think the onus falls on us as citizens, including the media, civil society, and most especially the electorate, to keep the administration on its toes and make sure that not just its campaign promises are kept, but that it is doing its level best in service of the people.
Right.
So it's too early to predict how it's going to go, but like I said, we must always keep hope alive. So it's best to be optimistic and have the belief that they will do the best they can. And if we begin to see that they are going astray, it's up to us to call them to order.
Right. Well. Of course, prior to this swearing in of the ministers, a lot of people feel that majority of the people that made the cabinet of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu seem to be more politicians than technocrats, and of course, they are very worried as to how much these people would deliver, on his mandate. But yesterday, the president seemed to have a clear message, to these ministers when he told them to serve Nigeria and not regions or states. He told them specifically that they must do everything to ensure that they restore Nigerians' belief in government. Do you think that politics might have a major role in what we should expect from this ministers? Because it is clear that the former governor of Rivers State, Wike, said that about 10 PDP governors, nominated ministers to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Are we looking at party loyalty now, or just delivering the goods to Nigeria as they've been charged by Mr. President?
Well, the structure of governance is one that requires widespread input. The president on his own cannot know 47 individuals in 36 different states. Remember, the constitution requires one minister from each state. So there's got to be 36 ministers plus one from the FCT. There's got to be a minimum of 37. The president cannot know 37 competent individuals from each and every state. So he has to rely on others to make recommendations. And the way it has always happened is that it's the governors that put people forward to the president for consideration. Of course, the president is still going to do his due diligence, but it will be the governors that will recommend those people to him. So there will be some politics in it, there will be some technocracy in it, but at the end of the day, what the president was saying was, I remember that you are ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The fact that you are on this cabinet, a representative of XYZ state, does not mean your loyalty should be to that state or to that region that nominated you or put you forward. As a minister of the federal government of Nigeria, you are accountable to the entire country, and the entire country is who you should put first. So it's not about the fact that you are the minister of aviation. You should now go and cite a school of aviation in Delta State if there are other states that are better or better positioned for a school of aviation. So we should eschew parochial interests of ethnicity, of religion, of region, of family, of associates, or even partisanship. Is what the president was saying, is put the country first, not other narrow interests. And that makes a lot of sense. And what Governor Wike was saying in his own defense, he was not really alluding to the president talking generally about national prioritization of interest. Wike was defending the accusation that as a member of the PDP, how could he have accepted an APC, a position in an APC government? And what he essentially was saying was that his party, his governor, his state, his ward chairman, everybody approved his accepting that position, and that more or less his name was one of the 10 that was put forward by his governor, and that he got their permission before he accepted the position. So nobody should come and try and say he betrayed anybody or he was treacherous to his party, or so that was his position in terms of talking about the 10 nominations that were sent by the governor. Every governor is asked by the president to submit nominations of potential candidates from each state.
Right. Okay. So let's look at what a little bit of what's happening on the Nigerian economy. Well, at the moment, some people feel that, well, the economic plan of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may not be very easy to achieve, and these are the Association of Manufacturers of Nigeria, Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, beg your pardon. They are saying that, some of the economic policy of President Tinubu may not be achievable, and that's owing to the large amount of debt that we have as a country. And let me quickly pick a quote from the statement that was released yesterday. They said the Nigerian government has continued to breed a harsh business environment, by its indiscriminate imposition of high multiple taxes on manufacturers in a bid to generate revenue. This is coming at a time when the president, of course, is focusing on how to revamp the economy and all of that. What message will you have for the minister of course, the economy, the man who is manning the Nigerian economy, or who has been tasked, with revamping the Nigerian economy? What message would you have for him regarding the high debt profile that we are facing as a country?
Not being an economist, but at least running a household and running a business, I know two things about accounting. Number one is that when you are in a deficit situation, which is what you are talking about in terms of Nigeria's external debt, and which is what Mark was saying yesterday, is that based on the amount we owe and the debt servicing we have to carry out on a periodic basis, that it will be very difficult for the president to push through his economic programs, because we are handicapped or handcuffed by this debt overhang. And very rudimentary basic economics tells us that when you're in a deficit situation, there's two things you can do primarily. One is to raise revenue, the other is to cut expenditure. That's the only way you can resolve the situation. So we have to choose one or the other, or maybe a combination of both. And what I see the president trying to do now is mostly on the revenue side. And that's what man was complaining about. Is it's easy to say raise revenue, more taxes, more taxes, more taxes. But of course, there's an oil glut. Oil prices are falling, demand is dropping. So revenue from oil is not what it once used to be. Of course, there's also the fact that we have so many shut-ins and pipeline vandalization and oil theft that's reducing how much we produce per day. So the revenue from oil is dropping. So the alternatives that are being sought, of course, are non-oil revenue generation sources and taxation. But what man is saying, and what I know, is that at the same time as you are trying to increase revenue, you must also be trying to cut costs so that there is a balance somewhere that helps your deficit to reduce. But the focus that I'm seeing is on the revenue side. I'm not seeing any effort whatsoever to make adjustments on the expenditure side. Look, for example, the senators were going on a recess for the weekend. They allocated themselves 2 million each times 109. That is 300 and plus million naira for just a weekend holiday. So these are the kind of expenses that you think cannot be justified. Then you look at it, we have 48 ministers, the largest in the history of our democratic journey, the largest cabinet, 48 ministers.
No, they seem to be 45 now. They seem to be 45. 3 are yet to be confirmed.
Well, yeah, 49. 5 have been sworn in, but there are still 3 that are hanging. There's a space that's been reserved for Kaduna when El-Rufai was not confirmed, and the other 2 that are waiting for security clearance. If they get cleared, they will be sworn in as well. So what I'm saying essentially is the president's roadmap. The president's roadmap has made accommodation for 48 ministers. But look at it, whether 45 or 48, look at the expenses that are associated with running a cabinet that large. Each minister has aides, they have offices, they have vehicles, they have security personnel, they have ESTA code, they have budgets. So at this time, we should be looking at how to shrink government, not how to expand it, because that is part of what works on the expenditure side. Remember, I already talked about revenue side. We're trying to raise more revenue. But while raising revenue, we've got to reduce expenditure. The fastest way to reduce expenditure for a government is to shrink the size of government. Because in everything that government spends, the cost of running the government is the number one expenditure. Right. So it's the easiest thing to cut. But politically, it's not an encouraged solution. It's not because, of course, there's got to be job for the boys. Everybody is trying to get a piece of the pie. So trying to shrink government is not the easiest thing to do, but any government that wants to succeed in Nigeria must have the political will to reduce government expenditure, both for the executive, the legislature, perhaps not the judiciary.
Wow. Okay, so let's quickly let me take you back to Governor Wike. You know, he seemed to be trending, you know, yesterday, and of course on the lip of every Nigerian again yesterday because of the statement he made on pulling down illegal buildings in Abuja. You expect the opposition to respond, and of course we've been reading that some said no, this is just political vendetta, and of course it is not about restoring Abuja master plan and all of that. Do you think you know, former governor of Rivers State, Tinubu Wike, was right with what he said? You know, about pulling down buildings and, you know, shanties, slums, restoring the Abuja master plan. Do you think is right, you know, going ahead with such? Because a lot of people feel that, oh, okay, he was brought in to do, you know, some kind of funny job in the FCT.
Well, let's remember back in the days of El-Rufai, when in 1999, when President Obasanjo first came into power, El-Rufai held the same position in those days, and that's exactly his modus operandi. He went about trying to restore the Abuja master plan and making sure that all those that were in violation of that master plan were brought to book. However, I think that leadership comes with responsibility. I think Governor Wike has for very long has profited from this public perception of him as a bulldog, as a no-nonsense, as a contentious fighter who will wrestle anybody to submission. So he wanted to extend that public perception yesterday of being a no-nonsense person. But by and large, I don't think it's public outing. He's issuing threats to people who may be innocent, may not be innocent. I think he should have taken his office, looked at the situation, and gone about doing his job without fear or favor. That statement he made it look like it might be a political vendetta. I think there should be some diplomacy and some tact, and that if he had remained quiet and gone to his office, reviewed the files, come up with his own plan for how to run the FCT, and then gone about restoring the master plan quietly and effectively, he couldn't be accused of a vendetta. But if on the very first day, before you even got into the office to see what the situation is on ground, you're already issuing threats that, oh, there's a new sheriff in town, any and everybody beware, watch out. This, of course, it smacks as if he's there on a mission. But at the end of the day, the overall well-being of Abuja should be his primary concern. Let me give you an example. If there are some people in Abuja, take for example President Tinubu's personal house in Abuja, if it is built in violation of the Abuja master plan, will we can pull it down? Will we can pull it down? Are there not some ministers and some higher up Nigeria elder state people in Abuja who, if their houses are found to have contravened the master plan, will be above the law?
No, but he said, no, Mr. Dayo, he said yesterday that whether you are a minister, ambassador, or whoever you are, be ready if you have built on illegal land that is going to pull it down. That was what he said.
Will he pull down President Tinubu's house if that was found to be built on a drainage?
Well, we wait and see. We wait and see. Okay, so let's quickly look at what's happening in Niger Republic. Just yesterday, ECOWAS is insisting that military force might just be the solution, especially the fact that the military leaders in Niger have rejected ECOWAS diplomatic efforts to restore power within the shortest possible time. I beg your pardon there. And then, of course, Governor El-Rufai, tweeted this morning and said that, ECOWAS should not, engage Niger in military warfare because they are brothers. I do not know what he meant by brothers there, But a lot of people are saying that if ECOWAS attack Niger, we might have the issue of insecurity, increasing in northern parts of Nigeria. Of course, we are currently facing the issue of insecurity in that part. Attacking Niger, do you think that would further propel the issue of insecurity in northern Nigeria?
Well, the people of Niger and Nigeria, both countries share a boundary of over 1,000 kilometers, and that boundary was drawn arbitrarily by the British in the 1800s. So by and large, most of the people of southern Niger and the people of northern Nigeria, they are brethren, they are kith and kin. It's just that they are separated by an artificial line drawn by the British, but they are one and the same people. So it's like brother fighting brother, which is what El-Rufai was trying to say. But my take on the whole Niger situation is this, is that look, they are a sovereign country. What happens internally to them is their own business primarily. But you as their neighbors, for your own purposes of security, without a doubt, you should attempt diplomatic solutions, and if those are not forthcoming, you have options of sanctions and things like that. But I think that if a country has not been openly aggressive towards you, in other words, they've not threatened to attack Nigeria, they've not threatened to attack any of the other ECOWAS countries, they are not amassing troops on our borders or anything like that, I don't think we should be belligerent about wanting to go to war with them simply because something happened internally. It's their internal problem. So what we need to do is to secure our own border and secure our own defenses to make sure that if what is happening in Niger leads to any encroachment on our own territorial integrity, we are prepared to defend against it. I think that ECOWAS, as a coalition of brother states, should be each other's brothers' keepers, yes, but up to a point where you don't interfere on the sovereignty of an independent nation. I don't think ECOWAS has the moral right to dictate to Niger about Niger's affairs. I think what ECOWAS has a right to do is to band together and make sure that what is happening in Niger is not affecting their own countries, either by way of security, by way of economy, by way of trade, by way of our citizens who may be in Niger. Are they endangered? If they are endangered, let's go and evacuate them. But right. I don't think we should be moralizing to Niger and say that, you have no right for military to have taken over from you and you must restore the person who was there before. The person who was there before was there at the behest of the people of Niger. And if the people of Niger or the military of Niger took him out, it's up to the people of Niger to now say, we don't want you people, we want to go back to democracy, and they know how to go about doing it on their own. Even if they appeal for external help and say, help us get these military people out. That is something that the other countries have to do and do a risk assessment that do we want to go and endanger Nigerian lives to restore democracy in Niger? Do we want to do that? And when you look at it, I don't see in any way opportunity cost what Nigeria has to gain by putting Nigerian lives at risk to go and restore democracy in Niger. I think what we should do is fortify our own democracy, fortify our territorial integrity to make sure that insecurity does not increase because of what is happening in Niger. Let everybody look inward and secure their own territory and their own country and other countries to sort them.
Mr. Dayo, if Niger, eventually, pull this through, the military leaders in Niger, if they pull this through, without restoring democracy and all of that, what does that mean for ECOWAS and, of course, Nigerian foreign policy? What does that mean, especially the current administration? What does it mean for ECOWAS as a sub-region, and, of course, Nigeria seen as a sub-region power? What does that mean for our foreign policy?
Well, the first thing you have to recognize is the fact that the military in Niger has already put in a transition plan. They have said within 3 years they will work out a democratic transition. Whether they will keep to that or not, we don't know, because many times in the past we've had such commitments that have failed from even within our own country as well. So that is nothing new. But the point is, they have installed a new government. They have to pick itself up and move forward. What ECOWAS needs to do, even if they don't recognize that government, because of course ECOWAS and all other African countries want to sustain democracy. So they can say, well, we are not dealing with a military regime. We are not trading with a military regime. We're not even recognizing a military regime. But within the ECOWAS community, like I said, they can sanction Niger. They can close their borders with Niger. There are things they can do to express their displeasure, but life will go on. If they do those things and it brings Niger to his knees, on Niger's own, they will plead and say, please, we hands up, we surrender, we will really, because we can't continue to function without interaction with the outside world. So I don't think it diminishes ECOWAS in any way if ECOWAS were to consider non-military options. I think what would be worse is if ECOWAS gathers itself up, infiltrates a sovereign and independent nation to go and fight a war there that it has no moral justification to fight. So for Nigeria's foreign policy, okay, well, we supply electricity to Niger. President Buhari built a rail line to Maradi. So there's a lot of, because remember I told you we are brothers. We are really the same people who are separated by the British arbitrarily. So there is a lot of camaraderie, togetherness. They speak the same language in southern Nigeria and northern Nigeria. They are the same ethnicity. So there's a lot of brotherhood going on there. How will it impact the current government in Nigeria? Well, I would continue to look at diplomatic solutions in terms of, you can't expect a brother to turn his back to a brother. So even if you try and do militarily, those who are related to each other on either side of the border, they will not fight each other. At the end of the day, they will collaborate with each other. So it doesn't behoove Nigeria to seek a military option at all. Let us solve it diplomatically. And I think That will increase our stature. President Tinubu has already made it clear that what has happened in Niger is unacceptable. So you've already made your stand clear. So from here on in out, what now needs to be done is discussion, conciliation, compromise. How do we move forward? Okay, so you said 3 years you will hand over power. Begin to make good faith efforts. First of all, cancel the trial of treason of the former president of Niger. You say you're going to try him for treason. Release him from house arrest. Even if you're not going to put him back in power, at least let him be a free man. Make some good faith efforts to show that you are not collaborating, but you are extending an olive branch to the ECOWAS community to let them know that you mean for the people of Niger and there are no ulterior motives.
Right. All right. Many thanks, Mr. Dayo Akintobi. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. I'm afraid we would have to call it a day here. Hopefully, we'll have you again next week, to get more of your thoughts on the happenings in Nigeria and indeed globally. Of course, it's always, a delight to have you on our show. Many thanks for coming, Mr. Dayo Akintobi.
Thank you for having me, Bankole. Good morning to all our viewers. Good morning, Nigeria.
Right. Okay, so we've been speaking with Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher of Ilukpeju Today. And of course, he has shared some of, his thoughts on the major happenings around Nigeria and indeed the world. Of course, do not forget to like us and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. And of course, do not forget to share this video so that others can enjoy and be informed of latest happening around the globe. Okay, my name remains Ido Bankole. It is bye for now.